Ma'am Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So very glad to see all of you here this evening. Thank you for your association. Thank you for giving me a chance to present some of the teachings from Srimad Bhagavatam to you in relation to this course on Bhakti Vaibhava, right? So you're on the third canto and we're beginning from chapter number 13, which is dealing with the appearance of Lord Varāha. I hope you've been finding the course enlightening. I'll share the screen with you. We have a PowerPoint. Are you able to see it all? Can I hear from you? Are you seeing it okay? Prabhu, I'm not hearing anything. Oh. Connection's down. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Oh,
recording in progress.
Nice to be back with you all. Sorry, I'm in the internet connection is not the best. This is something you'll have to tolerate. And there are a lot of people.
Sorry to interrupt you, Maharaj. Ramaya Prabhu has also joined.
Oh, welcome, Ramaya Prabhu. Ramanya Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. I'm happy to have your association. On this, and I wanted. Are you able to see it? Okay. Good. So you. All right. Sorry. Okay. They changed. Over the years things change. Unit 9 became unit. It's still lesson 1. The previous unit. Anybody remembers what happened in the previous unit? You were hearing about?
Lord Brahma and Kumaras has appeared.
The Kumaras. Anybody else appeared? Beside the 4 Kumaras, who else appeared?
Lord Shiva.
Okay. Wow, you couldn't understand anything. Anyway, Manu, where did they come from? From Lord Brahma, from the body of Brahma, yes. They took up the duty to help them. Very unstable tonight. They took up the duty to help their father in filling up the universe with the living entities. Two famous sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad. Uttanapad you hear about in the 4th canto, and Priyavrata comes in the 5th canto. And then 3 daughters, Akuti, Devahuti and Prashuti. Devahuti, of course, coming at the end of the 3rd canto in Kapila Shiksha. What's that? What's wrong? Something to some point? Anybody wants to make a point there? I was hearing some voices. Okay, so this is the family of Manu and Satarupa. Nice family, 3 daughters and 2 sons. A nice, happy family. Okay, then a look at what we're going to be covering in this unit. Again, you see, it's not Unit 9, it's Unit 11. I'll have to change that. We'll hear about the appearance of Lord Varāha this evening. Right? So the first section will describe Lord Brahma and his instructions to Swayambhuva Manu and his wife, how he wants their assistance to fill up the universe. And then we will hear the problem which Manu has, and he turns to Lord Brahma for help and asks Lord Brahma if he can lift the universe from the bottom of the ocean. And then the next section, texts 18 to 25. While Brahma was contemplating a solution, a small boar, the size of the upper portion of a thumb, came out of his nostril. The boar then became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation, as gigantic as a great elephant. So you can see the very nice illustration prepared for us by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust artists. I was looking over the letters which Prabhupada wrote to devotees, and there's one letter there where Prabhupada is responding to a question by the artist. The artist was saying to Prabhupada that boars are not very beautiful. So how am I supposed to paint the picture of Lord Varāha? Because I understand the Lord is always attractive. And Prabhupada replied to the artist, telling them that, yes, you're right, that the Lord is always attractive, even when he comes as a boar. So he said, do your best and try to make him look as attractive as possible. So I think in this illustration, they certainly did a good job. Lord Varāha doesn't look too disgusting there. And the comparison is made to an elephant. Just like a great elephant manifesting. Okay, then the next section of this chapter. After roaring, Lord Varāha enters into the Garbhodak ocean. Lord Varāha searched after the earth by smell. The Lord found the earth on the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, where the planets rest during the devastation at the end of Brahma's day. Lord Varāha took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. And then, next section, we'll hear the prayers offered by the residents in the higher planets, the Satyaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka. And they're offering Vedic hymns to glorify the appearance of the Lord. And finally, Varaha kills Hiranyaksha and suspends the earth on the edge of his white tusks. Varaha then placed the earth on the surface of the water and entered to his own abode. All right, so that's the 9th chapter, rather the 13th chapter. I have to get that 9 out of there. We're doing chapter 13. So I want you to understand that it's mentioned by the acharyas that there are actually 2 Varahas. One is described here, white-coloured, Sweta Varaha, and that appears during the time of Swayambhuva Manu. And during the time of Swayambhuva Manu, at that time the earth had fallen into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. So it's the Sweta Varaha who picks up the earth from the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. But then there's another Varaha, who's the red-coloured Varaha, and he appears during the Chakshusha Manu. Right? So there's quite a time gap there between the 2 incarnations. And the red Varaha, he's the one who actually kills Hiranyaksha. So this is brought to your attention. The acharyas explain that Srila Vyasadeva amalgamated or brought the 2 incarnations together into one for the sake of convenience for writing Srimad Bhagavatam. We could also talk about just why would the earth fall into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean? That is something which we should also be prepared to explain. How is it possible that the earth could fall into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean? Anyone would like to offer an explanation in this regard?
Prabhupada said, as far as I remember, or wrote that Hiranyaksha drilled into the earth, and so it lost its spin or its balance and it fell. But at the same time, I have a question also in this regard, that sometimes it's said or even depicted that it was actually Bhumandala which fell into the Garbhodaka ocean.
Oh yes, that's another point. That sometimes it's said that it's Bhumandala which actually fell into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. What are some of the reasons why it could fall into the... You said Hiranyaksha drilled into the earth. What was he doing?
He took out oil and maybe also gold.
Right, Hiranyaksha, he's looking for gold. And and
Prabhupada, I think he made the comparison that nowadays we take the oil, but it's always the endeavor of the demons to plunder the earth and in that sense also destroy nature, and even to that extent that it can fall out of its orbit.
Right, yes. That the modern times we're drilling the earth trying to take the oil out, and it could have similar effects to Hiranyaksha. What happened to Hiranyaksha during, what was it, Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga? When Hiranyaksha appears in the Satya Yuga? Is it? I think so. Anyway, the earth fell into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean because Hiranyaksha is digging everywhere for gold, and it created the instability in the planet. So we're warned, if we continue drilling, taking out the oil, it's going to upset the sense of gravity which is there within the earth, and the earth could again fall into the bottom of the universe. It's something which we need to think about. All right, so the instability of the earth is certainly mentioned there, and we're warned. We should take only what we need from the earth. Everything is provided according to what we need. Don't take more than what we need. And so similarly with petrol and so on like that, we shouldn't be extravagant with these things. Okay, going ahead, here we see chapter 14, pregnancy of deity in the evening. Vidura asked Maitreya, what was the reason for the fight between the demon king and Lord Boar? Maitreya narrates how Diti begged her husband Kashyap to have intercourse with her in the evening. Kashyapa requests Diti to wait because the time was inauspicious. Kashyapa explained that everything was inauspicious, and thus she would have two contemptuous sons who kill poor, faultless living entities, torture women. Then the Lord will descend and kill them. Chapter 15, description of the kingdom of God. This is a very interesting chapter because generally we don't find information about the kingdom of God in any kind of scripture. If you ask the Catholics or the Muslims, what's it like in the kingdom of God? Even the Buddhists have a difficult time to tell you about nirvana. So we have very good descriptions of the kingdom of God described here in the 3rd canto. So that's chapter 15. The influence of the sons in the womb of Diti expanded darkness throughout the universe. The demigods approached Brahma for an explanation. Brahma explains how his sons, the 4 Kumaras, were stopped from entering into Vaikuntha by the 2 doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay. The Kumars thought the 2 doorkeepers should be sent to the material world because they found duality in Vaikuntha. Padmanabha then arrived and displayed his beautiful form. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves from the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord entered the nostrils of those sages, they experienced a change from impersonal to personal understanding. So this is a really nice section of Srimad Bhagavatam actually. It's not highly philosophical. We get a lot of nice descriptions, nice pastimes. Interesting. All right, so coming back to chapter 13. So these are some questions which are there in your in the closed book exercises things which you have to do. Explain the significance of Lord Varaha's appearing from the nostril of Brahma and in the form of a boar. Not a very challenging question. Would someone like to respond to this? What about from the why does he come from the nostril of Brahma? Have you all had a chance to look over these questions? Anyway, you can look at text number 20.
Can I answer?
Yes, please, Maharaji.
Maharaj, I have heard that the Lord is personification of Vedas and Lord Brahma is born from the lotus, and because Lord Brahma is always breathing the Vedas, that is why Lord Varaha appeared from his nostrils Lord Varaha also represents he also is the personification of the Vedas.
Okay, very nice, yes. The personification of the Vedas. All right, and then what is the significance of his coming in the form of a boar? Someone else like to answer this one? We like boars, huh? Would you like boars? It's interesting, actually, the two incarnations, Narasimha and Varaha, are both very popular in worship in South India. People are very fond of worshipping Lord Varāha and Lord Narasimha. The worship of Lord Varāha used to be very popular, and there was a kingdom in South India where their currency was Varahas. They didn't have rupees, they had Varahas. So the Lord in the form of Varaha is very popular. In ISKCON, the worship of Lord Varaha hasn't really taken on yet. But here in Mayapur, in Navadvip Dham, we do see there is one temple, there is one Gaudiya Math where they have a Lord Varaha deity. Over there in Navadvip, because it said that Lord Varaha appeared over there, and that's called Kola Dweep over there. And they installed the deity of Lord Varaha. It said Lord Varaha appeared in Navadvip in the Satya Yuga in response to the prayers of a devoted Brahmana.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu?
Dhanavad Pranam Maharaj. Maharaj, may I attempt the question you asked why it says Varaha in the form of a boar?
Yes.
Maharaj, as I understand that the subtle form of earth is smell. So the Varaha, the boar, they are very expert. They can identify the smell by the smelling power. So this is the reason the boar form is the best one, which can drive into the mud where the earth is there, and by the smelling power, you can identify where is the earth.
Right. Yes, exactly. Very good, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Very nice explanation. The power of the boar, that they can locate things in the mud. So the bottom of the universe, it's, everything goes to the bottom, everything goes down. So the bottom of the lake, there's always dirty. We see here in the holy dams, they have a number of kunds and lakes, and they often have to empty out the water and clean the bottom of the lake. Like I don't know how many years they do it. It depends, of course, on their economic ability, how often they can do it. Sometimes they get donors who come along and donate for that. They did it for Radhakund a few years ago. They emptied out the water of Radhakund and cleaned out the bottom of the Radhakund. And at the bottom, of course, so many things go down. So similarly in the universe, at the bottom of the universe is dirty, muddy, a lot of things there in the bottom of the universe. So the Lord took the form of the boar to go in there, bring it all up, bring the earth up, and using his tusks to support the earth. On his tusks, he could bring up the earth. And so, very wonderful form, actually. Boars, generally, we think they were disgusting creatures. We see them in Vrindavan, particularly in Vrindavan. We see the wild pigs or the boars, and sometimes they will get the boars and they have to shave them. They have to shave all their skin off them because they're so dirty, because they're always there in the dirty water and the mud and all the filth. And so they can spread disease. So from time to time they have people come to just grab them, capture the boars and shave off all the hairs off their body. So Lord Boar, however, we will hear in this chapter how Lord Boar, after he dove into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, and then he shook his body, and the drops of water from his body, it was falling on the sages, and the sages were becoming purified. The sages in the higher planets were feeling purified from the water coming from his body. Could anybody explain that? How would it be so different? That this, the boar is such a dirty creature, but the water from his body is purifying the great sages. How could...
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaji?
Maharaj, in a lecture actually I heard about this, that Krishna also wanted to show that that in the most abominable creature is the boar, but Krishna wanted to show even in that form also he can appear and he can show that he is the most supreme. Probably that is the reason.
Okay. Yes. Yes, right. Actually, he's not really the boar. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? He's not the boar, but this is the Supreme Lord himself coming and taking that form for his particular pastime. So, by that form of Lord Varaha, he's able to bring up the earth, and also, at the same time, he fought with Hiranyaksha and defeated him. Oh, this is later on. How Hiranyaksha, who was born first, was considered younger than Hiranyakashipu. So, would someone like to volunteer to explain that for everyone? How could it be?
Srila Prabhupada would explain, as far as I remember, that the one who comes out first is conceived the second. When they are twins, then actually it's from the other way around. Yeah, the one who comes out last is actually the one kind of semen who had first merged with the oval.
Yes, right. It's surprising, isn't it? Interesting. When someone has twins, in China, in China they call the first one Dada, meaning big, and they call the second one Xiao Xiao, meaning small. So one twin is Dada, another one is Xiao Xiao. The first one's considered the big. It's the wrong way. They got it the wrong way round. And how was the earth able to float on the water? This, in the 18th chapter, how is it possible that the earth is able to float on the water of the Garbhodak ocean? Simply by
the power of the Lord. The Lord empowered her so she could float.
Right. And how is the Lord distinguished from all the other residents of Vaikuntha? In the 19th chapter, something which you must have already studied before. The Lord is distinguished from all the other residents of Vaikuntha because of?
Because of Kaustubha, Maharaj.
Because of what?
Kaustubha.
Kaustubha. Yeah, Kaustubha, okay, yes. One is
And
Kaustubha.
Also, there is also Srivastava.
And Srivatsa, hair of Srivatsa.
Yeah.
Yes, right, very good. And what happened to Diti shortly before the death of her demonic son? That's a more difficult question. Anyway, we'll wait till we go to the 19th chapter for that one. Not so important today. Coming back to this 13th chapter here. We want to understand principles which can be drawn from Brahma's acceptance, Manu's acceptance of Brahma's order, right? Manu was given orders by Lord Brahma. What did Brahma actually want from Manu? There were some, the general instruction was?
Population, to expand the population.
Okay, yes, to expand the population. And anything else?
Thereby please Brahma and also the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Please Lord Brahma, please the Personality of Godhead. Hmm?
Yes,
Okay. And on the other hand, we have the four Kumaras' rejection of Brahma's order. So, what we want you to do, we want you to discuss in a group. We'll make some groups, and you can discuss in the group what is the relative or the respective importance of these principles and how these principles may be relevant for current social issues in ISKCON. We are part of ISKCON, the greater ISKCON, the family of ISKCON, and just like Manu, he's the head of the family, the universal family. So within ISKCON we have our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, and we have his family. And these principles which are there, the contrast, Manu's acceptance and the Kumara's rejection. What are the general principles in these two cases, and how we want you to discuss how important are these principles for us in ISKCON? And is it relevant for us in ISKCON, these principles? Of course, Manu and Brahma, their relationship is father and son. Fathers and sons. Spiritual masters like the father, disciples like the son. We have our founder Acharya and his children, his sons, as well as his daughters. We're all the children anyway. We don't make distinction. When the son is obedient to the father, then it's very good. Very nice. The father is very happy. But does it happen in the modern times? I don't know about you, but well, I left home when I was about 17. I didn't have a lot of harmony with my father. We didn't get along so well together. Hare Krishna, maybe you want to mute there before you talk. So, how many people do we have here tonight in the group, in the class? 20, is it?
18.
18. All right. So then, what? Will we have 3 groups of 6? Or do you want smaller groups?
Well, we have 16 students in our class today.
16.
Yes.
All right, so 16. So then it's easier. So groups of 4. 4 people in each group. and we'll have 4 groups. So who can make that? Who can make the groups for us?
I'm making, Maharaj.
Oh, very good, Prabhu. Thank you.
Have you assigned questions to each group, Maharaj? So do they have to do a separate question?
No, same questions. But we want you to discuss particularly the relevance of these principles in relation to ISKCON. The importance of these principles and how relevant they are to ISKCON.
Aditi Lata Mataji, please join the group.
Recording stopped.
Chaitanya Vishnu Prabhu, you have to join breakout room. Maharaj, how much time for the discussion?
Well, like 7 minutes or 8 minutes.
Okay. I guess your internet connection is weak.
Huh?
You lost a connection now?
Yeah, I'm back in.
Okay.
Can you make me the you have to make me the host that share the screen again.
I have made Maharaj. You are co-host.
Oh, thank you. I should join one of the groups.
We are about to close, Maharaj. Time is over.
Oh, okay then. All right. Everybody?
No, Maharaj. They are joining.
Okay.
Now everybody is back, Maharaj.
Okay. So who's going to be spokesman for group number one?
Recording in progress.
Group number one, who's the spokesman?
Yeah. Spokesman.
Shyamala Kulika Mataji may speak.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, that is pronounced Jai Shri. Maharaj, so we identified that so here it is mentioned that the Brahma's order was followed by Manu. So according to Varnashrama system, so that is a perfect principle that the son have to follow the order of the father. So that was followed and it is a very encourageable. But at the same time, the Kumaras were rejected. But the Kumaras rejected, it is for the higher purpose. So because the first one, the Manu's acceptance, because both are coming in the lineage of the disciplic succession and they are following the Supreme Lord's order. So it is encourageable and it is acceptable. And in the Kumara's rejection also, it is not wrong, even though they didn't follow the father's instruction, but it is for the higher purpose. So when it comes for higher purpose, so it is acceptable that we can reject because if it is not going to satisfy the Supreme Lord, then we should not do. But if it's going to satisfy the Supreme Lord, then we can accept it. So that's the main point we are.
Okay. Yes, sounds good. Everything's reasonable. Nothing much. What about this second part then? The importance of these principles.
So the principles, the first, the lineage, the line of disciplic succession, so Prabhupada mentioned. So whatever that comes in that line of disciplic succession, so we should accept that. And another thing is, like when we as a father, the parent, they have to give the knowledge of Krishna consciousness to their child and bring in the proper Varnashrama system.
Could you explain more what you mean about what comes in the line of disciplic succession? They should accept that. Could you give some examples? What things we are obliged to accept?
whatever the spiritual knowledge that what we are receiving, so it has to be accepted by the disciplic succession. So we should not accept from anyone else. So it has to come starts from Krishna and then Brahma to Manu. So how it is descended. So it has now for us like Srila Prabhupada have given, and after that like we have special masters after Srila Prabhupada. So we should accept in that disciplic succession, and it has to come in the proper sampradaya. So if it is not come in the proper sampradaya, so we should not accept that particular knowledge.
Well, knowledge, of course, we're going to accept. That's not a very big... But what about these principles that, you know, on one hand, you know, people want to give up the world. They want to give up all material considerations. In the case of the Kumars, you know, they just want to go away from the world. They just want to, you know, give up all kinds of responsibilities of the material world. That's something that's certainly, you know, in the world, that's kind of not very socially acceptable by most people. We saw people joining the Krishna consciousness movement. You know, we were accused of being a brainwashing cult in Prabhupada's time, taking people away from their homes and having them dressed in these funny clothes and the haircuts, the shaved heads. We were considered fanatics, and we were a cult. We were brandished as a cult.
Yes, Maharaj. I think go in ahead, Prabhu.
Yeah, Maharaj. Subject permission, yes. In support of the rejection by Maharaj to the instructions imparted by Lord Brahma, yes, the verse goes in conformity. Devarsi Buddhaptananang Pitunang Nayam Raja means if someone serves the Lord by rejecting the instructions of the superiors, if any, he is not duty bound to discharge any responsibility in that regard.
He's not what?
Means if someone serves the Lord as a responsibility in discharging the topmost responsibility, he is not duty bound to serve anyone in the universe. That goes in conform to the verse, Devasi Buddhaptaninang Pitrunang.
Oh, don't quote verses in Sanskrit to me, you know. Don't give me these things, you know. Consider me to be, you know, I'm just an outsider, you know. I'm a worried father or a worried mother. I'm thinking about my child who's come to your society, and, you know, my son, you know, I brought him up to be a good boy, and now he wants to become a monk. And you're quoting me, you're quoting some Sanskrit words to me, you know, it's not going to be very meaningful to me. I'm talking, we want to understand the social and the social issues which are there, you know, and we're talking about a society, an international society. And we have centers and devotees, members, and my son left our home to go to join your society. You know, how long will he stay there? I see people come to these cults, they come there for some time and then they get tired and they go away and give it all up. I am just worried, you know, I don't think it's such a good thing. I'm just presenting to you some of the issues which are going to come up and how we have to deal with these things in ISKCON.
Yes, Maharaj. Can I speak from group 2?
Oh, please do, Prabhu.
Thank you. So yeah, as we know, back in the 1970s, many devotees joined at various ages. So now I believe, actually I can't speak for all centers because I'm only familiar with some. But yeah, like in the UK anyway, at least, like there's a minimum age requirement. You need to be at least 18, i.e. you need to be an adult. You can't just join ISKCON just like that. And I believe in other centers as well, when you want to join ISKCON, say as a brahmachari or as a brahmacharini, it's generally advised you have some experience, i.e. working in the world, and you're very clear as to why you want to join ISKCON. So there's some prerequisites joining ISKCON. It's not as simple as just joining for the sake of, like, as you put it, like falsely renouncing, you know? You don't want to take any responsibility. No, you have to take some responsibility. So that's just one point.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. That's important. Certainly one must... We did have a problem. There was a young girl joined the Krishna consciousness movement, and devotees were encouraging her. And it ended up costing us a lot of money, big money, and many, many years in court battles and stuff. We have to be very careful. Sometimes, you know, the devotees were thinking, oh, she's really sincere, she's really a great devotee. She's like 14 years old or something, you know, or 15 years old, and they were hiding her and sending her to other temples to keep her away from her parents. And we have to be very careful about these things. Can you understand?
Recording stopped.
Can you understand the
Recording
issue?
in progress.
Hare Krishna. You understand the issues we're discussing?
Yes.
What about group number 3?
Oh, we did not, group number 2 did not say anything.
Group number 2, okay, go ahead then, say more.
Add on.
I'm happy to hear.
Okay.
He was part of
Do you want us to say from the, you know, the whole points?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just okay, so there are 2 things which we are discussing here about the acceptance as well as the rejection. So in the acceptance, the father's duty is to, you know, as you are saying that, you know, to make the kids grow up in a proper manner so they are a decent human being. And so the kid's duty, the son or the daughter's duty is to follow what father has taught and follow in their footsteps. In the disciplic succession, in the spiritual life, we have to follow, as group 1 was also saying, that we have to follow the disciplic succession, but the disciplic succession is like we are Brahma Sampradaya, so that way we have to follow. And for the rejection thing, the Kumaras were also right in their path, because if we are doing anything for Krishna, then we do not need to follow the Varna. If it is a pure devotional service we are doing, we do not even need to follow the Varnashram system. We have to just serve Krishna. So they're 24 hours, they are totally absorbed in Krishna consciousness. At that time, no rules and regulation is required, because whatever they're doing it for Krishna's pleasure. And it's for higher purpose. So that is the reason when Kumaras actually rejected the order of Lord Brahma, it was also right, because they had a higher purpose in life. And in ISKCON, as we are seeing these social issues, like Siddharth Prabhu said about that point is also there. Other than that, we have to make them understand that this is only temporary life, this is one life, and we should go beyond that, because ultimately the relevance is how we are going to be in our next life, how we have to go back to Godhead, so that we are away from these material miseries and disease and death and birth again and again. So this is the point which we have to emphasize, so they realize that today we are happy, maybe temporarily, and we are thinking we are happy, but then when the problem comes, we realize, oh my God, what is going to happen? And this thing will be coming, no matter in what situation you are, no matter what social standing we have. So to come out of this is the only way to practice devotional service totally and absorb in that, and so we can actually go back to Godhead. So we are not under this material energy, and we are not taking birth and death again and again.
So who is actually qualified to take up devotional service in that level?
We are all qualified.
At what stage are you qualified? You're just going to let anybody who walks in the door and say, I want to give my life to Krishna?
Yes, they have to start. They have to start with the regulative principles, and they have to gradually increase. And that is why this disciplic succession is required at that time, initial stages, to go step by step.
But I think one important point which we haven't heard yet is about when Manu accepted Brahma's order, both were very qualified. Both Brahma was qualified to give the order, and Manu was very qualified as a disciple to accept the instruction. Now, if you take instruction, if you take orders and something from somebody who's not qualified, then that's a problem. Now, who is actually qualified?
Qualified. That is why disciplic succesation is required.
That's very vague. It's very vague. You know, I could say, well, you know, I'm initiated. Does that mean I'm following the disciplic succession? Is it just a question of formal initiation which connects us to the disciplic succession?
No. So the other person has to follow. The preacher has to also follow these principles and strictly in that regulative principle.
There has to, you have to see these things. One has to understand first what's involved, what he's doing, what he's getting into. Not that prematurely we let people come in and just give up everything, and they're saying, oh, I'm sick of the world. You know, Prabhupada went to Hong Kong. One Indian man came there and said, Prabhupada, I want to take sannyas. So Prabhupada looked at him and said, oh, why? He said, I have a wife and 4 kids at home. It's hell. Is that a good reason to let him take sannyas?
No.
Yeah. That's not the proper reason, is it? But the man was saying he wanted to take sannyas. Now Gaur Govinda Maharaj came to Prabhupada, and he also wanted to take sannyas. Now he also had a wife and several children at home. And Prabhupada gave him sannyas. Because there was a big difference between the two men. So we do have to be a little careful about who we give orders to, you know, giving order, telling people to do things like, you have to surrender to Krishna, you're wasting your life, Prabhu, material world is useless, it's all temporary, you have to surrender to Krishna. You know, we have to be a little cautious about presenting these principles to everyone, to the public. Social issues are definitely there. It's definitely important for us nowadays in ISKCON. We are more conscious, we're more mature, you could say, than in the days of there was something called the Robin George case. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it was many years ago. It cost a lot of money. And different problems like this, where sometimes we can be too fanatical in encouraging people to take the order of Krishna consciousness, and you're connected by the disciplic succession. How long are they going to be faithful to the disciplic succession? We do see many people come to Krishna consciousness and they go. We do have that problem. People coming, taking initiation even, and then after some time you lose them. In Russia, I heard Bhakti Vaibhava Maharaj, he did some survey, and he calculated that the average lifespan of a Russian devotee was about 8 years. Now that's not a lifetime. So we do have to be cautious sometimes. You know, you get people come, I want to give everything to Krishna. And then the next month later, no, I don't want to be a devotee anymore. I want to leave. These are issues which we have to think about. So getting people to disobey their father, nowadays, like the way they do it in Chowpatty, Radhanath Maharaj's area over there in Chowpatty in Mumbai, or Pune, like that, these areas, if they get some nice young men who are serious to be devotees, then they have to, they will investigate their family situation. What is the family mood on this? Is the family favorable? Now, if the family is not favorable, what should be done? The family doesn't want their son, their only son, to join Hare Krishna movement. What would you do? You're the temple president, and you have to deal with this issue. The boy wants to become a devotee, his family dead against it. He's the only son, he's taking care of his mother and father. How are you going to deal with it?
At first, we have to talk with the parents. We have to talk with the parents and see what's their issue, and we have to see if we can overcome the issues.
Well, the issue is they want their son.
So in previous time, we have seen everyone, even when Prabhupada came to West, he also wanted to follow his guru's instruction and renounced his family. His family was not happy about it, but he had to do it because that's a higher purpose. So in this case, like Kumaras, I mean, we have to ignore what parents want, rather think that what is the higher purpose, what is best.
Well, it's a little difference when you speak about Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was already 50 plus when he left home.
Yes, but he regretted. He wanted to come. He used to say that I wish I could have come earlier, right?
He may say like that, but of course he didn't encourage people with families, that they should just run away from their family and be irresponsible. He makes that very clear. Now, Prabhupada wasn't being irresponsible. He'd already had his family life. The children had grown up. They were there. The older son is there. They're all there. They're all working people, and some, so they could take care of his wife. And he left them. He went to Vrindavan. And he was already 50 plus, and he was living in Vrindavan for some years before he went to the West. And when he went to the West, his youngest son, did come to see him. But he was already a sannyasi by that time. What about group 4? We didn't hear anything from group 4.
Maharaj, group 3 is also remaining.
Huh?
Group 3, we didn't speak.
It's not clear. What did she say?
Group 3 also has not contributed.
Oh, group 3. Okay, then let's hear from group 3 then.
So in group we discussed that the most important point from both these principles is that here the disobedient son is also doing the right thing, and the obedient son is also doing the right thing. So the challenge which we have is that when Srila Prabhupada says you should be independently thoughtful, that means we should know, we should be educated. That is the challenge, that we should be educated, that we should know whom to surrender. Just like even we see the pastime of Bali Maharaj also, he didn't accept his guru's instructions, but he gave the 3 steps of Lamb to the Lord. So here we should be, currently that issue is that we should not be disrespectful to the superiors, to whom we are not listening just for the higher purpose. We don't listen to our superiors, but that doesn't mean we should disrespect the superiors.
Okay, yes, that makes sense. Nice. That you give a nice example that Bali Maharaj rejected his guru's order for a higher purpose. Yes. How about relevance in ISKCON? Current affairs.
Hare Krishna, I'm speaking from the group 3. So we can see that first thing we have to know what is good for us. For in Manu's case, for accepting Brahma's order was good for him, and in Kumara's case, rejecting Lord Brahma's order was good for his. So we have to see what is our level. So for that also we need to consult authority. We need to have some guidance so that we can understand what is actually best for in our Krishna consciousness.
Okay, yes, good. We should be guided by mature, responsible people. We shouldn't make decisions rashly, impulsively. They should be practical and they should be thoughtful. We should be very thoughtful and careful before we make any decisions and guided by responsible people. Yes, good. All right, group 4.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Who's the spokesman?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandot Pranam Maharaj. Maharaj, from on behalf of Group 4, Chaitanya Vishnu Prabhu is the spokesman, but my internet was unstable. So if Chaitanya Vishnu Prabhu tells something, I will add something. So Chaitanya Vishnu Prabhu, can you please go ahead?
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
And Hare Krishna Ramya Prabhu. So I'm just speaking from my perspective, because I joined ISKCON as a youngster at the age of 15. So I have some kind of experience in Brahmacharya Ashram, Gurukul and Grihastha life. In terms of the orders of Manu being accepted and in terms of Kumaras being rejected, each is a unique and independent situation, and it's based obviously, like Maharaj said, on qualified personnel on both sides, on the regulations that are given by scripture and evidence-based historical patterns. So in the time of Brahma, of Manu and the Kumaras, we find that even the society was supportive according to Vedic injunctions, and decisions were made with the perspective of understanding the Vedic system to be the law for development. Whether someone was even an atheist or not, they would still follow Vedic culture. In current times, we don't have that. And as Maharaj mentioned, ISKCON is a growing society that's been there for 50 years. In the early days, there was certain rash decisions made. And it's very prudent for the young generation and the new devotees or even existing devotees to study ISKCON's history, to find out even the mistakes made on GBC levels, and they're all available in all the resolutions. We had, multiple Guru Pujas, zonal issues, devotees being taken advantage of, different sannyasi issues, grihastha issues, temple president issues, children abuse issues. But ISKCON is learning, because ISKCON's philosophy, as far as Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam concerned, are perfect. But as a society, we still need a support system that requires government input, security input, financial input, educational input. And ISKCON as a society has not yet reached that scale where it can provide everything in-house and just say, yeah, we're aloof from the world. So as much as we are living in a different dimension of Krishna consciousness, the physicalness is still dealing with so many different societies, and we are learning how to deal with them. We are learning how to balance. We're learning how to have mature decision making based also on historical examples. And one example Maharaj said of Chopati temple, they're also very strict. If you want to join the ashram, first you have to come there, you have to be educated, you have to attend Mangal Aarti every day for 6 months while going to work, and you have to do a seva. You have to be able to open a savings account in which your money will be put. Are you getting medical insurance for your parents? Even you become a brahmachari for the rest of your life, do you have a savings fund, which Ananda Vrindavan Prabhu teaches them? So this is a very, very developed community kind of protocol to sustain brahmacharis, so that they also know that financially they'll be taken care of. Because in the past, when ISKCON didn't, ISKCON was sued. The famous Delhi case where 2 brahmacharis got over 40 million from the temple because they had given their life, and when the new management came, they were removed. So we have such historical patterns. And one of those historical patterns which ISKCON has implemented is the trustee system. Whenever a new temple is made, it has different trustees who are independent people who can ensure that ISKCON's land is not stolen, ISKCON's money is not stolen, the property is not stolen if a temple president decides to go rogue. So yes, ISKCON is growing and we're learning. Sadhu Shastra is there, but there is also an historical pattern of the application of that. We are still not a society where we're so independent that even if somebody falls down, we'll all gather to support him. We find that 95% of devotees are lonely. They're all suffering from being ignored, not only on this junior level. Prabhupada disciples say that sometimes we hear it, that, we were abandoned, nobody cared for us, nobody understood. So we are not even close to that generation. We've only seen Prabhupada in pictures. So for us, it's even more of a tough challenge to understand what is cooperation, what is that. So relevantly for ISKCON, there is an effort being made. And it's also prudent for the devotees who are part of it to learn these things, because it's our choice to be Krishna conscious. We're not being forced. So if we want to make it, we have to put the effort to learn our history, learn from that history and understand what is the future supposed to be like, make those adjustments, make those kind of communities, those kind of forums where things can be discussed. People who are developed Brahminical people. There'll also be Varnashram, there'll also be non-Varnashram, how to accommodate them. So there's always going to be some new issue. But do we have the forums and people who want to take the responsibilities, understanding that there are different varieties of people? So that's just my perspective, Maharaj.
Thank you very much.
If I said anything offensive.
Yes, thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Would the Prabhu like to add anything there?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Maharaj. Specific to our discussion, Manu's acceptance and Kumara's rejection, the principle general, the importance, as per my understanding, both are required. Both the principles are accepted, subject to if they are progressing to elevate in the process of Krishna consciousness. That's a general principle. It's both are required. Then the decision of the rejection and the acceptance is based on the spiritual maturity and the qualification of the person. So next, how these principles may be relevant in current social issues. So both the principles are required, but current situation in ISKCON, if the society doesn't allow to be brahmachari, so it is better not going against the society, because nowadays grosthas are doing, like Manu, grosthas are doing very good service. So focus should be given how to grow the institution more and more. If the acceptance of family life can help growing the society, so it is also acceptable. But the main aim is that everybody should have a higher purpose, like the pure devotional service, engage in pure devotional service.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. Yes, fair enough. Okay, we'll go ahead. Perfect. Would someone like to read this? It's from the purport, text number 9. Someone read, please.
If the son is unreservedly willing to be guided by the father is 10 times more eager to instruct and guide him by all means. The father and the son relations, as exhibited here in the dealings of Brahma and Manu, is excellent. Both the father and the son are well qualified. and the example should be followed by all humankind. Manu the son unreservedly asked the father Brahma to instruct him, and the father, who was full of Vedic wisdom, was very glad to instruct. Purport 3.13.9.
Yes, note, father and son were both well qualified. Of course, Brahma, the most pious living entity, is Adhikavaye, and Manu, also his son. He is qualified. He's a very good son because he's approaching the father and asking for instruction. And he's not just some person, you know, like somebody would come to Prabhupada and sometimes, you know, you may be very young devotee, you're not really qualified, but somehow you come to Prabhupada and you say, give me some instruction. Prabhupada would just say, yeah, you go and serve him. Go and work with the temple president or something like that. It's not that everybody's qualified to take instructions. Prabhupada could send some people to other parts of the world. One devotee go to Australia, another devotee go to Africa, these kind of things. Prabhupada would do these kind of things. They were not really so qualified, but Prabhupada took that risk because he had to do it to begin the movement. But nowadays, of course, we don't do these things. It's not so, you know, it's not how we recommend the preaching to go on. We try to be more careful and more methodical, practical, do things in a nice way. Okay? Perfect surrender and service. Someone read?
Oh, hero, your example is quite befitting a son in a relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Translation 3:13:10.
So note the points here. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane. That's an important point. We did get so many, as we, you know, in the beginning of our society, Prabhupada saw so many unusual people came to Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada even remarked at one point, it's well known, that Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is not for lazy people or for crazy people. Because there were a number of crazy people, in other words, not very sane people coming into the Krishna consciousness movement. So our movement has developed for the better. Yes, someone read more?
The devotees of God, who are all confidential servitor, are sometimes perplexed in the discharge of their respective duties, but they are never discouraged. They have full faith in the Lord, and He paves the way for the smooth progress of the devotee's duty. Purport 3:13:17.
Okay. So that's also more qualifications, taking up the order of the superior, never be discouraged, have full faith in the Lord, like that. One has to be qualified. Okay, we'll go ahead, the next section, dealing with the birth and the deeds of Lord Varaha. Birth of Lord Varahadev. O sinless Vidura, all of a sudden, while Brahma was engaged in thinking, a small form of a boar came out of his nostril. The measurement of the creature was not more than the upper portion of a thumb. O descendant of Bharata, while Brahma was observing him, that boar became situated in the sky in a wonderful manifestation, as gigantic as a great elephant. So we're hearing about the appearance of Lord Varaha. He was personally the Supreme Lord Vishnu and was therefore transcendental. Yet because he had the body of a hog, he searched after the earth by smell. His tusks were fearful, and he glanced over the devotee, brahmanas, engaged in offering prayers. Thus he entered the water. So we're hearing about characteristics of Lord Varaha Dev. Oh, here's a big purport here. We should always remember that although the body of a hog is material, the hog form of the Lord was not materially contaminated. It is not possible for an earthly hog to assume a gigantic form spreading throughout the sky, beginning from the Satyalok. His body is always transcendental in all circumstances. Therefore, the assumption of the form of a boar is only his pastime. His body is all Vedas, or transcendental. But since he had assumed the form of a boar, he began to search out the earth by smelling, just like a hog. The Lord can perfectly play the part of any living entity. The gigantic feature of the boar was certainly very fearful for all non-devotees, but to the pure devotees of the Lord, he was not at all fearful. On the contrary, he was so pleasingly glancing upon his devotees that all of them felt transcendental happiness. Purport of chapter 13, text 28. This very nice description of how the devotees' vision is so different from the non-devotees. You must be familiar with the illustration where Lord Varaha is fighting with Hiranyaksha. So when people often see that picture, they think, oh, who is this terrible creature fighting with this poor man? You know, because Hiranyaksha has a human form, they think he must be a good person. And they see Lord Varaha, they think, oh, he's some demon or some nasty creature. They don't understand. As Prabhupada said, the non-devotees, they cannot understand Lord Varaha. Lord Boar very easily took the earth on his tusks and got it out of the water. Thus he appeared very splendid. Then, his anger glowing like the Sudarshan wheel, he immediately killed the demon Hiranyaksha. And although he tried to fight with the Lord, 13, text 31. So there's some discussion about whether actually the Lord was killed by the tusk of Lord Varaha, or whether he died by the hand of Lord Varaha. There's different opinions. So it's explained that first he was killed by the hand of the Lord, and then later on he was picked up by the tusk. Oh, this is mentioned here, right? According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Vedic literatures describe the incarnation of Lord Varaha in two different devastations, namely Chakshusha and Swayambhuva devastation. This particular appearance of the boar incarnation actually took place in the Swayambhuva devastation, when all planets other than the higher ones, namely Jana, Mahar and Satya, merged in the water of devastation. This particular incarnation of the boar was seen by the inhabitants of the planets mentioned above. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur suggests that the sage Maitreya amalgamated both the boar incarnations in different devastations and summarized them in his descriptions to Vidura, from text number 31. Going on to the next section, hearing how the sages glorify Lord Varaha, text number 36, someone like to read?
One cannot achieve the result of sacrifice unless one observes the strict regulations. In this age, there is practically no facility for performing sacrifice in strict discipline. Therefore, in this age of Kali, there is a stricture regarding such sacrifices. It is explicitly directed that one should perform Sankirtan Yajna and nothing more. The incarnation of Supreme Lord is Yajneshwara, and unless one has respect for the incarnation of the Lord, he cannot perfectly perform sacrifice. In other words, taking shelter of the Lord and rendering service unto him is factual performance of all sacrifices. Text Papa 3.13.36.
Okay. Kali Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. Yeah, the real yajna is Sankirtan, and the Lord is Yagneshwara. So unless one has respect for the incarnation of the Lord, he cannot perform proper sacrifice. We ask people to join in Sankirtan so they get some benefit by chanting the holy name, but we should actually understand the real purpose of our sacrifice. Sankirtan it's done with proper knowledge, proper understanding, then the benefit will be much greater. So rendering service unto him is the actual performance of all sacrifices. Sometimes the Mayavadis will sarcastically remark to us, what service do you think you can do for God? Oh, okay. Thank you. Sometimes they'll say, what service do you think you can do for God? So, what service do we do for God? You know, God is all-powerful. He has everything. He doesn't need us. So can we do any service for him?
Maharaj, we can show our love to God because Lord has everything.
How are you going to show your love for God? You're just going to tell him you love him? You're going to say, I love you, I love you?
No, Maharaj, whatever is pleasurable to Lord, like Lord asks, Patram Puspam Phalam. So simply we can offer by love. So we can offer to our Gurudev, Guru Maharaj, so to offer that one. This is the way we can reciprocate with the Lord. What Lord told that, preach my glories. So we just speak, that is, if that's pleasurable to the Lord. So this is the way we can reciprocate our loving relation with the Lord. It's in this very simple way. We do not know, but what is mentioned in scripture, we can follow that one.
What is mentioned in the scriptures?
Like Lord asks the Patram Puspam Phalam Prayam.
All right. Yes, he asks Patram Pushpalam Phalam. But as you said, he wants the bhakti, right? He wants the love. So yes, how do we show that bhakti?
Maharaj, by surrendering unto the Lord.
By what?
Surrendering unto the Lord.
How do you surrender?
By serving
by
him.
Performing 9 types of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam.
Yes, by doing things like Shravanam, Kirtan. Yes. And also by following the different rules and regulations which are there. You know, when we make offerings and so on, there's different rules and regulations and things which are required, you know. We want to do everything in the proper manner. Like we make an offering, we should be clean. We should be pure. If we're not, you know, if we do things haphazardly, if we do things casually, it doesn't indicate much love. There's quality in everything. And so similarly with Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name. It's a yajna. We want to do it with quality. We want to call the name with feeling, from the heart. Yeah? You know, Satchidananda Swami always says to devotees, chant from the heart, from the heart. And so like that, the feeling of the heart is also very important, you know, really reaching out to the Lord and with understanding He's a person and we're offering something to Him. We want to offer our love, our feelings to Him. So we want to do it in the proper manner. Okay. Text number 40. Someone read?
O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your task, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with the leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. Translation 3:13-40.
So, something happened when the Lord picked up the earth, right? What happened to Mother Earth when Bhumi was picked up by the Lord?
She got pregnant and Bhaumasur was born.
Yes, right. Then what happened to Bhaumasur?
He was killed by the Lord with Satyabhama. He came with Satyabhama and killed Bhaumasur.
Yes. Why?
Because he captured all the queens, princesses from different kingdoms, made them captive. They sent a letter to Lord and he came to help.
Well, you know, Boma, Narak and, what did you say his name? Boma and...
Bhaumasur.
He was the child of Bhumi and Lord Varaha. So, wasn't he a devotee?
Because of his bad association with the Narakas.
Bad association with who?
I think it's Narakasur.
Banasur Maharaj?
Yes, Bana. Yes, Bana. Banasur. Bad association from Bana. He became influenced. Actually, in his childhood, he was a very good devotee. Mother Earth raised him to be a very good devotee. He was actually a good devotee. But somehow he got into bad association and became very bad. So much so that the Lord had to come and kill him. So that's the importance of association. Very important. Yes, someone can read this verse?
The fortune of the Earth planet is praised because of its being specifically sustained by the Lord. Its beauty is appreciated and compared to that of a lotus flower situated on the trunk of an elephant. As a lotus flower with leaves is very beautifully situated, so the world, with its many beautiful mountains, appeared on the tusks of the Lord bore. Purport 3:13-31.
Thank you. Yes, beautiful descriptions of the earth being picked up by Lord Varaha. Text 43. Who else but you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, could deliver the earth from within the water? It is not very wonderful for you, however, because you acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. By your energy, you have created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. So, who's offering this verse? Who's offering these prayers?
The sages of Mahaloka, Janaloka and Tapaloka or Saptaloka.
Yes, are they intelligent people?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah, they're very elevated souls, right? They're in the higher regions of the universe. So they're offering these very nice prayers. and they're appreciating that the Lord could deliver the earth from the water. Well, they said, it's nothing wonderful for you. They understand the Lord has inconceivable powers, and they give the example. You acted most wonderfully in the creation of the universe. You created this wonderful cosmic manifestation. What to speak of one tiny planet? There's so many planets in the universe. So to pick up one planet from the bottom of the ocean in the universe, not very, but the Lord himself creates many universes. They're all coming out from the pores of the skin. So it's not a very, nothing very wonderful to pick up one planet from the bottom of the earth. All right? Someone can read the next one?
When a scientist discovers something impressive to the ignorant mass of people, the common man, without inquiry, accepts such a discovery as wonderful. But the intelligent man is not struck with wonder by such discoveries. He gives all credit to the person who created the wonderful brain of the scientist. A common man is also struck with wonder by the wonderful action of the material nature, and he gives all credit to the cosmic manifestation. The learned Krishna-conscious person, however, knows well that behind the cosmic manifestation is the brain of Krishna, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Maya Dakshena Prakriti Suate Characharam. Purport 3.13.43.
Yes, very nice. Thank you. So we should always see everything in relation to Krishna. I heard one morning Srila Prabhupada was on a walk. It was in Hyderabad. So there was a young Western devotee, and he was walking with Prabhupada. There were other devotees there. Somehow this young devotee happened to say to Prabhupada, he said, "Oh Prabhupada, look at the sunrise, isn't it so beautiful?" And Prabhupada looked at him and said, if you still want to enjoy the material world, you'll have to take birth again. So Prabhupada was pointing out to the young man that we have to appreciate not just the beauty of material nature, but the personality behind the material nature. Who created it? Who is the person behind it? That is an important point, right? Where were we? This one, yeah. We're doing this.
Can I ask one question in relation to this?
Yes, please do, yeah.
Shouldn't we then appreciate the wonderful nature which Krishna has created?
Oh yes, we should. But we don't just appreciate the nature, we appreciate who's behind it.
Okay, so we have to appreciate both.
Well, you can't see the nature without the person behind it.
Correct.
You buy a new car, right? You get a new car. Oh, the car is very nice. But who designed it, you know? There's engineers, there's teams of people. You know, they spend time bringing out the different innovations and things. So, similarly with the material nature, we cannot separate the material nature from Lord Krishna. But whose nature is it? It's Lord Krishna's nature, you know? It's under his direction. So we have to, just like Prabhupada was giving a lecture to artists, and he was explaining to them, who is the supreme artist? And he talked to the artists about, you know, artists will paint pictures of flowers, they'll paint pictures of scenes, mountains and oceans and so on. But who is the creator behind all these things? And Prabhupada explains how Lord Krishna is not just simply an artist who paints a picture, but he actually creates these objects. All of these things are his creation, and they're actually all his energy which he arranged and combined in such a manner, and it just bewilders people. And some people spend their whole lives just studying the material nature. Prabhupada talked about how some scientists, they study grass, and they study how the grass grows, and you cut it and it grows again, and they were studying all the different chemical structures which are there in the blade of grass, and how the grass grows, and you know, they spend their whole life like that, and they never understand who is actually behind this, who created the grass, where does it come from? So people get very caught up in the material energy. Chemists and physicists and so on, they don't understand who is actually behind this whole creation. So that's the important point. We want to understand that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, can I say something?
Yes?
Maharaj, in this connection that about grass, Prabhupada says that when the cow eats grass, it gives milk. But if we eat grass, then we will die. Like that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be very happy to eat grass, right? So Krishna arranged, he arranged the grass for the cows, and the cows give milk for us, that we're supposed to drink the milk. Okay, next text, 44.
Ordinarily, the body of a hog is considered impure, but one should not consider that the hog incarnation assumed by the Lord is also impure. That form of the Lord is the personified Vedas and is transcendental. The inhabitants of the Jana, Tapas, and Satya Lokas are the most pious persons in the material world. But because those planets are situated in the material world, there are so many material impurities there also. Therefore, when the drops of water from the tips of the Lord's shoulder hairs were sprinkled upon the bodies of the inhabitants of the higher planets, they felt purified.
Jai. Sometimes, you know, we get experiences, you know, you get people come to the temple, and you know, when they offer water to the deities, and then they come around and they will sprinkle drops of water on people's heads. You know, some people are eager to get the water. You know, those people who are devotees, they're eager to have the water on their head. But those people who are not devotees and who don't know this, you know, they shun away. They don't want the water on their head. Sometimes you get groups of people like that coming to the temple. They're maybe coming for the first time, and they watch the arti. And if somebody comes around with water, sprinkling water in their head, they go, oh! You know, they really don't like it. But here, although it's a boar, the Lord's shoulder hair, these inhabitants of the higher planets, they're very intelligent people. They feel purified. Because they know it's not just the boar, it's the personality of Godhead. Okay, takes 45. Yes, someone?
Oh Lord, there is no limit to your wonderful activities. Anyone who desires to know the limit of your activities is certainly nonsense. Everyone in this world is conditioned by the powerful influences. Please bestow your causeless mercy upon these conditioned souls.
So the unlimited nature of the Lord, we often say inconceivable, His wonderful activities. It's very important for people to understand this appearance of Lord Varaha, which is being given to us in the 3rd canto. If people have difficulty to understand the Lord as Varāha, then it's going to be much more difficult for them when they come to the 10th canto. Because in the 10th canto, the Lord appears in the human form, and He performs activities which are totally inconceivable. You know, picking up the Govardhan Hill and dancing Rasa Lila and all of these things. So, without first of all understanding these incarnations like Lord Varaha, it will be very difficult for them to understand Lord Krishna. That's why Lord Varāha is coming here in the 3rd canto and Lord Krishna comes in the 10th canto. Because there's a lot of purification to be done before they actually hear the 10th canto, to actually understand Krishna Lila. That's going to be more challenging for them. But just to understand the Lord as Varāha is a challenge. So it's certainly inconceivable how a boar could pick up the planet from the bottom of the universe. These things are difficult for people. But they have to understand the Lord is inconceivable. He has inconceivable energies. And that's the important point. We cannot limit him. There's no restrictions on him. He can appear in any form and he can do anything. Okay, text number 45. Mental speculators who want to understand the limit of the unlimited are certainly nonsensical. So the Lord is described there as unlimited, the limit of the unlimited. How can there be a limit to the unlimited? No. Every one of them is captivated by the external potencies of the Lord. Every one of them, the mental speculators, they're captivated by the material energy, which is just Krishna's external potency. The best thing for them is to surrender unto him, knowing him to be inconceivable, for thus they can receive his causeless mercy. This is to get people to understand that there are such things which are inconceivable is also very difficult for them. People are very materialistic, and they think everything should be. You should be able to measure it. You should be able to calculate everything, and it should be all understood. It should be very empirical. So this prayer was offered by the inhabitants of the higher planetary systems, namely Janatapa and Satyaloka, who are far more intelligent and powerful than humans. What do we know? Right? The one devotee was, Prabhupada was giving class in Australia, and he was talking about, birds which fly from one planet to another, and huge eggs, and Prabhupada was talking a Timangala fish which can swallow a whale, and the devotee stood up and said, Prabhupada, it all sounds very inconceivable, doesn't it? I mean, just, this big bird which flies from one planet to another, and a fish which swallows a whale. And Prabhupada simply looked at him and said, what do you know? You're still in the womb of your mother. That was Prabhupada's refute of the devotee argument. You're still in the womb of your mother. What do you know? So this is the problem. The mental speculators, they try to see everything in their own limited vision. They cannot understand. But for people in the higher planets, it's very clear to them. Okay, the final section, Varaha returns to his own abode and Maitreya offers benedictions. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude this auspicious narration of Lord Boar, which is worthy of description. The Lord, who is within the heart of everyone, is very pleased. Very nice to hear the Lord's pastimes. And Lord Varaha is one of the Dasavatars glorified by Jayadev Goswami in his Gita Govinda. Text 48, intelligent persons should therefore hear personally and cause others to hear the descriptive narrations of the Lord's activities, for that will destroy the pangs of material existence. Out of his causeless mercy only, the Lord comes to this earth and leaves behind his merciful activities so that the devotees may derive transcendental benefit. The Lord Varāha is one of the avatars, right? Avatars, he descends, he's coming to this earth, he leaves his activities behind. We have other forms of the Lord. For example, we have Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we say Vrindavan Dham. The Dham means a place where Lord Krishna resides eternally. And in Mayapur, Lord Chaitanya resides eternally. It's a Dham. The Lord is residing there eternally. Lord Varāha, he's an avatar. He comes and he goes. But he leaves the pastime, his activities, and the devotees get transcendental benefit. If one serves faithfully, there is no possibility of frustration, because the Lord himself takes charge of the devotees' advancement. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart, and he knows the devotee's motive and arranges everything achievable. In other words, the pseudo-devotee who is anxious to achieve material gains cannot attain the highest perfectional stage, because the Lord is in knowledge of his motive. One merely has to become sincere in his purpose, and then the Lord is there to help in every way. Purport of text 49. So the different modes are there. Krishna is in everyone's heart. He knows everybody's motive, and he arranges accordingly. So Prabhupada talks about pseudo-devotee, anxious to get material gains. They're not going to get the perfection. We simply have to be, therefore, sincere. So the sincerity of purpose, and the Lord is there to help. Only an animal or a man who is almost an animal in behavior can refuse to take an interest in hearing the transcendental message of the Lord. There are many books of stories and histories in the world, but except for the histories or narrations on the topics of the personality of Godhead, none are capable of diminishing the burden of material pangs. Therefore, one who is serious about eliminating material existence must chant and hear of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Otherwise, one must be compared to the non-humans. Text number 50. Okay, so we'll stop there tonight. Are there any questions? Any comments?
Yes, Maharaj. I wanted to ask a few questions, Maharaj.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Does Varaha avatar comes in the age of every Manu?
Well, he's a Lila avatar, is it in every Manu? We've got the Chakshusha Manu and the Swayambhuva Manu of it. We didn't hear about the other Manus. We're now in the seventh Manu, right? I think we're in the seventh Manu, isn't it? In this day of Brahma? One day of Brahma, how many Manus?
14.
Right, and I think we're maybe it's the 8th Manu now, but we only have information about 2 Manus.
Whereas we are in 7th one.
Oh.
That is 28th Dwapar, and thereafter this Kali. We are in 7th one. That is Vaivasvat Manu.
Yeah, Vaivasvata Manu, yes. So it's the 7th one. I know, because I always thought, they say usually we're in the middle of the day of Brahma, a little over the midday of Brahma. Half a day is over. So I thought maybe we're into the 8th Manu, but yeah, you're right, the 7th Manu.
There are 71 yugas of each Manu.
Right.
So we have only, he has spent only 28 yugas. The rest yugas are there for this Vaivasvat Manu, 7th Manu.
So we only have information that I see from these two avatars. I don't know about other avatars of Varaha. We should understand, maybe if the earth falls into the bottom of the ocean, then you may get another Varaha avatar, There has to be a particular need for that appearance of Lord Varaha. But it was described, it's mentioned in the Navadvipdam Mahatmya. I mentioned at the beginning of the class how Lord Varaha did appear in Navadvipdam, and he appeared in the Satya Yuga. So that was due to the prayers offered by a Brahmana. The prayers offered by a Brahmana in the island of Koladweep, he brought about the appearance of Lord Varaha in the Satya Yuga. So that was, that's in this Manu, in this Yuga, in this Divya Yuga, that Lord Varaha appeared there in Koladweep. So certainly, the Lord can come.
Yes. Yes, Maharaj.
May not be any Lila, may not be picking up the universe or killing a demon, but he can come, yeah. Yes, Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, from the commentary of the Acharyas, as we read from the purport, so this Svet Varaha came to rescue the earth from the waters of devastation. So it means that maybe in the end of the day of the Brahma, after 1000 Chaturyuga, there is partial annihilation, and at that time this Varaha avatar came. So how can it be in the middle of, as just now said?
No, well, we said the earth fell into the bottom of the universe. It wasn't that there was a devastation, but the earth fell into the bottom of the universe because of the work of, maybe it was Haranyaksha, because of his drilling the earth, that he upset the equilibrium of the earth, and so the earth fell into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean. But not that the whole universe, there wasn't a mention of a devastation. But at the end of every Manu, there's a partial devastation. So at the end of every Manu, there's a partial devastation. So it could have been at the end of the reign of the Swayambhuva Manu that the earth fell into the bottom, because at that time there is a partial devastation.
Yes, Maharaj. And the killing of Hiranyaksha is for the red Varaha in some other Manu, Chakshusha Manu.
Yes.
And that time earth didn't fall in the ocean. So these are two separate incidents, as you told.
That's right, yes.
Okay, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I didn't get, can I ask the question for more clarification?
Please, yes.
Maharaj, like partial devastation, during partial devastation, so like every Manu, so earth is going down. So Lord Varaha comes to pick up, or How it is, Maharaj? Could you please clarify?
At the end of every Manu, there's a partial devastation. So it's described that the lower planets, that means the upper 4 planets, which mean Mahaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, these 4 planets, they're at the top of the universe. So they remain, but there's the lower planets, there's a devastation which takes place at the end of each Manu, partial devastation. So the devastation may be the flood, maybe a flood, that maybe the planets all, or maybe sometimes it's a fire, there's a fire, and because it's described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita how there's a fire, and the different demigods, they go up to the higher planets, they will leave Swargaloka and go up to the Mahaloka and Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, just to get away from the fire of devastation which is going on in the lower regions of the universe. Does that answer your question?
Maharaj, this is clear, but as you said, Maharaj, these 4 top planets, they remain, but other lower planets, they are affected by this devastation. So that means Earth is always affected during the partial devastation.
Yes, Earth is also affected, yeah.
So that means that every end of the Manu, so Varaha comes to rescue the Earth.
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily that Varaha has to come to rescue the earth. Just like at the end of every day of Brahma, there's also an annihilation. So what happens at the end of the day of Brahma is also a partial annihilation. And then again, begins again. Creation comes about again. How it happens? How does the creation come up? Well, you've been studying creation. You've been studying creation in the 2nd canto and the 3rd canto. You just finished creation there. You heard Sukadeva Goswami describe creation. How does it come about? How do the planets all come about again at the end of the devastation? At the end, by the power of the Lord, by His inconceivable powers. The planets all come back. The creation comes about again. How does it come about in the beginning? The Lord enters into the universe. So in the bottom of the universe, you have Garbhodakashayi Vishnu there. And you have the lotus flower. And you have Lord Brahma. And the different planets.
Can we conclude?
Huh?
Maharaj, can we conclude that this, as per description of Srimad Bhagavatam, like Swayambhuva Manu and Chakshusha Manu, in these 2 Manus, the Varahadeva appeared. Only these 2 Manus. Is that correct, Maharaj?
Yeah, that's how I understand it, because that's all we're told about in our scriptures. So I don't know about others. We have to accept the information which is given to us. No one's commented about any other appearance of Varaha. Oh, I mentioned to you about how Varaha appeared briefly to a Brahmana in Koladweep, Navadweep in the Satya Yuga. It's mentioned by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Navadweep Dham Mahatmya. But I don't know about any others.
Thank you, Maharaj.
And we don't know about any other Leelas which Lord Varaha performs. When Jayadev Goswami composes it, when he wrote his Dasa Avatar Stotra, he described Lord Varaha as picking up the earth from the bottom of the universe.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you. Clear, Maharaj.
Maharaj, one quick question. Does Varadev have his own planet like
Oh yeah.
Nrsimhadev have?
Oh yes, must have, yes. Yeah, Lord Varaha will definitely have his own planet there in the Vaikuntha, where his devotees will be there with him. He will have his Vishnu form, four-armed Vishnu form.
Maharaj, does Hiranyaksha comes in each Satyuga?
Does Hiranyaksha come in each? Yes, actually that's mentioned, that Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, that they come regularly, but not that every time they're Jai and Vijay. One time they were Jai and Vijay, but every time you get these demons, you get some demons taking birth. You get some Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu.
Yes, so only 2 times Hiranyaksha was killed by Lord Varaha. Other times,
No,
Mother Lila.
only one time he was killed. No, we only know one time killed by Lord Varaha. Not 2 times.
Yes, Maharaj.
One time.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, I wanted to clarify one line in the purport for verse number 8. May I read it?
Yes.
Okay. This line of disciplic succession from Brahma is spiritual, whereas the genealogical succession from Manu is material. But both are on the progressive march towards the same goal of Krishna consciousness. Maharaj, I wanted to ask that how the genealogical succession from Manu, which is material, its goal, how can its goal be Krishna conscious? Its goal is just Varnashrama, Dharma, or some material conception.
No, Manu is a great devotee. Manu is a very great devotee of the Lord. He's empowered. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. Swayambhu Narada Shambhu Komar Kapalo Manu. He's one of the Mahajans, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
The Mahajans are all authorities in devotional service.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, any other questions, Prabhus? Okay, so we'll finish here tonight, and I'm sorry, tomorrow I have to take up some other engagement, but we'll meet next weekend. Is that all right? Understood? Everybody know?
Yes.
Clear, Maharaj.
Okay, so we'll meet you next weekend, and we'll have 2 chapters. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.